Mercy. Y'all know what that means. Compassion. Understanding. You know what that means. Fasting and prayer ought to lead us to becoming more merciful, not more mean, not more vindictive, not more nasty, not more arrogant, not more pointing the finger, but more merciful. Showing compassion. And this is a deep one too, because our king in another part said, blessed are the merciful. Why? Because it's them that will obtain mercy. You have to be merciful in order to receive mercy from Yah. And that's deep. Why? Because mercy is one of our Elohim's attributes. It's one of the things that he promised to be. It's part of our covenant. So when we are being unmerciful, we're being like the devil. When we are having mercy, we're being like Yah. But to be merciful, we got to understand that's one of the heavy things of the law. These folks that was counting their leaves and their spices were not being merciful to the people, nor were they shown mercy. Why? Because it's harder to be merciful than it is to count leaves. What's the last one he said? And emunah, faith. What is faith? We already know that that word has to do with being securely fastened. Watch this. It also means trust. That means that a person ought to be able to trust you. It has to do with your trust in Yah. The weightier matters of the law represent loyalty. So if you're fasting and you're being unloyal to your husband, unloyal to your wife, unloyal to your children, unloyal to your friends, unloyal to your occupation, or just not a loyal person, he said, what's the point of that? Well, at least I pay my tithe. You're supposed to do that. But the weightier matters. It's heavier to be loyal. It ain't one or the other. I'm going to prove that in a second too, because that's another thing that we always do. We always try to say, you ought to do the weightier matter. No, listen to me. You got to do both. Another reason for prayer, fasting is steadfast. That means you need to be a solid person. You don't need to be moved from one thing to another thing to another thing. So if you're jumping from one place to another place to another place, this teacher to that teacher, this doctrine to that doctrine, this, that, and every time they talk to you, you were some new thing, some new wind of doctrine, some new, oh my. And our people, because of the internet, we got that bad. And that, MOREH. I'm like, yes. You know, I watch everybody. I just chew the meat and spit out the bones. You don't know the difference. You swallowing bones. You don't know how to do that. You don't know Hebrew. Most people don't know Hebrew. They don't know the culture. They're not familiar with the actual Bible from Genesis to the Revelation. You don't have a strong foundation of the Torah. You cannot go around eating off of everybody's plate. You can't even go to your family. Some Negroes wash their greens in the bathtub. And don't become telling me they still greens. No, that's still a plant, but I ain't eating it. I saw a Hebrew washing their greens in the wash machine. I said, what is wrong with Zion? No, we don't go around eating out of every plate. You got to be steadfast. And how about this? How about you open your own Bible sometime? Why don't you start in Genesis and read to the Revelation? And when you finish, do it again. And when you finish, do it again. And when you finish, do it again. I told a brother, since the last time you and I have talked, I've probably read the Bible 50 times. He said, what? I said, yeah, man, I just decided to just start reading the Bible over and over again. I've probably gone through it maybe like 50 times, maybe more. He's like, nobody's doing that. How you going to tell me nobody doing that? I'm doing it every day. What do you mean? And I even had to confront him because he's a preacher. I said, you don't do that? I doubt if he actually ever read it all the way through just from cover to cover. In other words, Zion, why don't we do that? What'd I leave? Oh, because faith tied to Yah. So that your connection with Yah and to your fellow man is wait a minute. Your connection with Yah is unshakable. So that your connection with your brother or your sister ought to also be unshakable. That's why we fast. Remember, the king told us, pray one for another. Then what did he do? Then he told the disciples, y'all need to be one. Like me and my Father are one. He said, matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to pray about that. I'm going to ask Abba to make us one. That idea of being connected is powerful. And it can be a result of our prayer and our fasting if we would keep the weightier matters the most important. Judgment, because these are the matters of the law of Torah. Judgment, mercy, and faith. These things you ought to have done. Somebody said, it's either or. He's no, it's not either or. And not to leave the others undone, you blind guides. You are straight out a net, which probably means pushing it out of the other end. When you got a net and you constipated on a net, you're like, what's wrong with you? Swallow the net. You're a net. But then you can swallow a camel. How you swallow a camel and strain at a net? How is that possible? You see, because you're a hypocrite. You're a blind guy. I gotta go, Zion. I just wanted to say something. It's the heavy stuff of Torah that we focus on in our lives always. Judgment, righteous judgment. Mercy, being merciful. Why? Because your heavenly Father, your Father who is in heaven, he is merciful. And then he said, emunah. And that is faith and staying connected to him. And of course, staying connected to him connects us with our brother. I ain't got time to deal with that. But that all has to do with asking forgiveness and going through the Master's Prayer. There's a much more, but I wanted to finish what I started. I went over my time about 8 minutes, but you administrators in the house and all of you who was in the room, Toda Rabbah, for spending time with the MOREH on the eve of our great feast of Sukkot. I'm looking forward to it.